In this video, we're going to be installing the Oberon clutch slave, as well as a Speigler Performance clutch hydraulic line on my 2015 Ducati Panigale 899. You might be asking, well, why? So the clutch on the 899 is really heavy. It's a hydraulic clutch, and I'd say it's about probably 6 or 8 times heavier than any other bike with just a regular cable clutch that I've ridden. It's very heavy and makes it tough for feathering the clutch a little bit for slow speed stuff. It just really wears your hand out. So I've read a bunch of places, people complain about it, and of course the #1 suggestion is the Oberon Performance clutch slave cylinder. It's supposed to reduce the weight by 25% or so, which is pretty substantial. It's a good improvement. But I'm also doing the new braided steel line as well, just in case maybe this line has deteriorated on the inside or something like that. It is the original OEM clutch line, so I'm going to replace the clutch slave down here, re-bleed it, and we're going to see what kind of improvements we have on this at the end. So should be pretty straightforward, but first I want to start off with doing my best to benchmark how heavy the clutch is to start. Ideally, I would use a fishing scale or something to pull on this and see how heavy it is, but I don't fish, so closest thing I have is a shipping scale. All right, so let's see. So 14 pounds, 10 ounces. Let's do it one more time just to check. All right, so that time 13 pounds, 9.5 ounces. One more time, just make sure. Uh, 12 pounds, 14 ounces. So somewhere in that 13 pounds is what it takes to pull this clutch in. So we'll see if we have any improvement after this. I sure hope so. All right, so let's get into this. Step #1 for this project, make sure you have a beverage and you've subscribed to the channel. Appreciate it. Step 2, remove the left-hand side fairing here. I have already removed it. It's all the bolts along the side here. They are all a 4mm, and I highly recommend you throw them all into a little magnetic parts tray. Throw them aside, you're gonna need them later, of course. The next thing is I want to break the slave cylinder down here loose. All right, so here is the clutch, or the OEM clutch slave cylinder right here. It's held on with 3 bolts. They're 3 5mm bolts. And 3. To pull that off, let's, if you have zip ties, I don't know what this zip tie goes to. This actually might be to my battery tender, so you might not have that, but a little zip tie there. Try to get a little bit of slack here. And it comes off like that. So this push rod here is going to stay there. So go ahead and leave that. That's going to be reused. On the underside of the master cylinder here, we've got another bolt. It's a 12mm as well. I just stuffed a paper towel down in here because, like I said, DOT fluid is just the nastiest stuff and I hate it so much. So, okay. That cracked loose a lot easier. I'm just going to pull it off of here, totally expecting that some of this brake clutch fluid is going to bleed out of here. And you can't see too much, but see, it's just the bolt at the bottom, the underside of the master cylinder clutch here. I'm only turning off the turn on, so it takes time. All right, so now that that is loose up there at the top, I think I might be able to pull it on through here. Nope, hung up on something. Oh, there it goes. And there we go. Okay. So there is the OEM brake line and slave cylinder. All right, so grabbed my new Speigler Performance stainless steel braided line. You'll notice one of the fittings is kind of a little bit angled. That's going to go up to the master cylinder. The other one goes down to the slave. So make sure you get that the right way, because I'm thinking this is going to be a little bit of a pain to route this. And you're not going to want to do it more than once. All right, so just looking at this and how the routing needs to go, I'm thinking I might be better off if I pull these 3 bolts out here. I've pulled this off before. Those bolts here, they're these black-headed Allen keys. I believe they're 4 millimeter. If you pull these off, it kind of allows this whole piece to lift up a little bit. Not come off entirely without unplugging everything, which I wouldn't recommend, but I think my best bet might be to, actually my best bet might be to use that. Okay, we'll pull these 3 off, and it might give us a little bit more room. To maneuver that new brake line through there. That one came with that whole piece. All right, now that allows this to pull out a little bit, which I think is going to be just the ticket we needed to be able to fish our new line through. So again, make sure that you go with the right end in. And of course, fishing this through here, you're not going to be able to see a whole lot, but I can't show you how to do everything. You got to figure something out for yourself. Okay, so I got that pulled all the way in there, and then this line just kind of need to get turned around a little bit. Okay, and that's about where it needs to be there. So lengthwise, we're looking pretty good. Yeah, looks perfect. And the routing looks fine too. So I'm going to start by connecting my banjo, connecting the brake line with the banjo bolt. This is the original one off of the master cylinder up here. I'm going to connect that one first. So just cleaned up this original banjo. Get it cleaned up, and it had a crush washer, a copper crush washer on it. I think typically they say don't reuse those. I'm not going to reuse them. I have a whole assortment here of different size crush washers that I just keep on hand. Definitely recommend having those if you work on your bike a lot. Seems like every time I change my oil or do anything, I need some new crush washers. So having a few different sizes around is, yeah, fresh new crush washer here. I've got a second one, so it's gonna go on the other side of the braided brake hose fitting. So it creates like a sandwich of crush washers in there. So pretty standard. I did notice when I pulled this off that there was only one crush washer where there really should have been two. And I had to double check my manual, the shop manual, and it confirmed that there's supposed to be one on either side. So not real sure what happened there. I've never had this hose disconnected up here. So I can at least say it wasn't me, but maybe that's an indicator that somebody has worked on this before and I don't know, didn't put that back together right. Maybe that's part of why the clutch is so heavy. So now it's time to break out our new slave cylinder. Directions and such, don't need any of that. Okay. So it's a nice kit. It actually came with 3 new bolts and these gasket style washers instead of crush washers. Those are nice. And then, so I'm gonna dump that in there. So let's just take a look here. It's a nice looking piece, really nice looking. So this is of course the CLU 1199. Pretty sure this is the same one that is on the Ducati 1199. Seems to be a lot of shared parts between the 899 and the 1199. So, all right, so we'll set that right there. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Not that much to really clean. But, okay. Let's see. So I'm going to, do a quick test fit here. How about that? Oh, money. Couldn't fit any better. All right. For reference, we are on to the second beer. Did you subscribe yet? All right. So that the new slave is torqued down and ready to put the banjo bolt back on here and start tightening these up. All right, so now I have got, so I pulled this, it's the banjo bolt off of the original clutch slave, got it off, got it cleaned up, and I'm going to use these little gasket washers that came with the Oberon kit. These are in lieu of crush washers. So, got one on top, one on the bottom. It's a pretty tight fit, so I'm kind of just spinning it so it threads on there easy. All right. Now, what's not great is that my my crash bar here is kind of in the way, and I don't know if I'm going to have to remove it or not. All right, so that's a bummer. I am going to, so this here is my crash protection bar. It's just kind of trying to occupy the same space as the bleed nipple there. I think it'll be okay once this is completely threaded on. But I can't get it on there currently. So I think the best thing I can do is just pull the new slave cylinder off here. And then I will get it mostly threaded on there. And then reinstall this piece. So that's not an issue that most people are going to have. It's really only if you have this specific brand. It's T-Rex Racing is the crash protection. Very robust crash protection, but it kind of gets in the way. So I'm going to thread this banjo bolt on here. I'm not going to tighten it all the way down. Should be all right. And then push that back on. And then, yeah, so, ooh, that is very tight. Interesting. Okay, either way. All right, so snug these back up. And then, of course, go around and retorque. Click, click. Click, click. Click, click. All right. All right, so I just want to be clear about what I'm talking about with how this interferes. This is the T-Rex crash protection bar, and this is the bleed nipple. It is right up in there. I'd say probably just barely touching, which is a problem because I'm gonna need to get to that to bleed this. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pull or at least loosen this up a little bit, the crash protection, get it out of the way, let me bleed this and get it all set up and before I put this back in. So I'll pull that off now. That's not going to pertain to most people. I'm definitely in the minority of people who have that crash protection, so I'm not going to show that. I'm just going to get it out of the way. All right, so I got that crash protection removed, and now that really makes for a lot more room here to do this bleeding, which is nice. So I'm going to start by tightening up the banjo bolt here. Want to make sure that you don't have it angled in a weird way or something that's it's going to interfere with either your shifter or anything else that's going on in this area. Don't want to over tighten these just nice and snug is usually best. Remember, this down here is aluminum that you're threading into, and the banjo bolt is steel, so if you go too tight or if you get too strong on it, you could definitely strip those threads out. So don't get too crazy with it. All right, so 12 millimeters still. And just going to snug up this fitting down here on the underside of the master cylinder. Okay, good and snug, and everything looks good. The routing looks good, so we're good. All right, now this is my least favorite part of anything like this, and it is dealing with new fluid. I've said it now, I think probably the third time. I absolutely hate DOT fluid. It is the most corrosive, nastiest stuff on the planet. So do not let it sit on your paint. Do not let it sit on your floor. Do not let it sit anywhere, because it will absolutely destroy whatever it touches. That said, I'm using Motul RBF, the 660. It's a high temperature stuff. This is just what I use in the brakes, so I use it in the clutch too. Now, to start, now that we've got all of everything's tightened up, our fittings are tight, we need to do. All right, so new brake line is installed, and the Oberon clutch slave cylinder is installed, and it's all bled. Definitely feels solid, but it still feels pretty heavy. So I'm going to test it again with the same scale I did before. We're going to see what it takes to super scientifically pull this clutch in here. £9, 14 ounces. All right, try one more time here. 9 pounds, around 8 ounces. So 9 pounds, 8 ounces-ish. So we'll say around 9 pounds is about what it is. Okay, well that does. Maybe that does feel better. All right, so it does seem like there's a little bit of an improvement. Have not ridden it, of course. I still got to put everything back together. But of course, just by checking, I've got it in first gear and seeing, making sure that it is definitely disengaging with the clutch here. And it is definitely disengaging, which is good. And it feels a little bit lighter. So we measured it with the scale. Before I did all this work on it, it was right around 13 pounds to pull in the clutch. Not super scientific, but I used the same exact scale in the same way to measure it after this. So, and it was around 9 pounds, my average. So let's see, 9 pounds out of 13 pounds puts us right about 70%. So that's a 30% reduction in pull, which is, I guess, what everybody kind of claims that it'll do. I think they usually say it's around 25% decrease, which I guess it has. I guess it has done that. It doesn't, I mean, it's still not a light clutch. I've ridden Suzuki's and Kawasaki's with cable clutches that are way lighter still. So, all right, so in the name of being scientific about realizing how much the new clutch slave cylinder actually helped on the Ducati. I've got it's a Gixxer 750 with a cable actuated clutch, which is a lot more common, especially on older bikes. Remember, the one on the Ducati is a hydraulic clutch. This is cable, so literally a steel cable goes from here down to the clutch to actuate it. And I wanted to see how much the pull is on this one, so that I can actually compare if maybe, you know, the Ducati is in the ballpark of what is more normal now. So I've got the same scale here. I'm just gonna push on it, and we're at right about 8 pounds. Let's try one more time. Yeah, we're around 8 pounds to pull the clutch in. So if you remember, the Ducati now with the Oberon new slave cylinder was around 9 pounds. So we're pretty close. I would still think, I think most people would still think that the hydraulic clutch should be quite a bit lighter than the cable clutch. But it's just not the case with that bike, even with the new slave cylinder. So hope that helps. I think that puts it in perspective. The new Oberon slave cylinder on the Ducati does make a pretty substantial difference. It did exactly what they said it did, reduced it by 25% at least, maybe 30%. I will say, even though the pulls are now pretty close, you know, 8 pounds and 9 pounds, the cable actuated one still feels better than the hydraulic one. I'm not sure what it is. It's just, I mean, this is an old bike with probably the original clutch cable on here. So it's not even anything new. It's not been freshly lubricated or anything like that. And it just feels better than the Ducati even now. So that's my opinion. You know, but overall, I do think, you know, the Oberon slave cylinder on the Ducati is a good move. It's a good buy if you have an 899. It probably is similar on the 959 as well. But yeah, pretty simple to install. If you like the video, don't forget to share it with somebody, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot, keeps me going making these videos when people like the videos and leave comments. So I do appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.